All right, now what we got to do? Let's do exactly like that. Sure. I'll go, John will go, and then we'll be building up to what Kat's going to do. Sorry. Suddenly, the John's blah, blah, blah is less interesting.
Certainly.
What is it? A tragedy plus time.
Well, it's been months.
Next year, it's going to be hilarious. Yeah, it's been months already. Yeah. All right. Hey, welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its influence today. My name is Will, and joining me, as always, I'm pleased to say, are both of my friends / co-hosts, Kat and John. Hey, guys.
Hi, guys.
Got the band back together.
Yeah. And hey, by the way, don't forget to listen to John on his other what the fuck is going on with me? Podcoast, hat, cap. All right. On his own podcast that he hosts, Gen X Grown Up. Do that.
Thank you. Yes.
Speaking of podcasts, I'll just say this. I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but I just want to say it's really last week when John and I recorded, but Kat wasn't here, so I wanted to be able to say it. Now, it's been 5 years since this is my 4th anniversary. That's how you say it.
You're beginning your
I'm beginning
year.
my 5th year of podcasting now. It's official.
I see.
John and I, the episode we released was, I think, on the anniversary of the 4th year I've done it, which means that Kat's been with us 2 years now, and John's been with us 1. So we all have something to... Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
So I appreciate that.
Years of rampant success behind us and many more to come, I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm just happy to be part of it.
Oh, good.
Me too.
So we'll
when
see.
I'm not at a Duran Duran concert.
Yes, we'll see when a concert comes.
Oh, understood.
We'll find out.
As implied.
Mm-hmm. Hey, on today's show, we're going to share the love lessons we learned from 1980s music.
Okay.
And this was suggested to us by our listener /friend /patron, Nick Guillory. Now, originally, Nick had reached out saying that he had suggested we talk about bad lessons learned from love songs. But I wanted to open up because I wasn't sure how many of those we would necessarily have, and I knew Kat would have next to 0 because she is just optimistic about everything. If you haven't heard on our bonus episode from last week, you should hear Kat go through the top 10 sexiest men. Not a bad word to say. Makes me feel even more disgusting that John and I were taking apart women for unibrows and heavy eye makeup.
Because we were picking apart the beauty of beautiful people and not good enough for us. And Kat
like we're two poster
nice.
Boys here, yeah. Now, when Nick suggested this, and he was talking about bad lessons that he heard, and I'll just read you what he wrote to us. We had some exchange, and then later he wrote about this, saying, "I believe that I learned the wrong lessons from cautionary songs. I was listening to Save a Prayer, and You Spin Me Round, and thinking that was normal behavior." I want to pause there. What does that mean, Kat? You know Save a Prayer really well.
One Night Stand.
Oh, okay.
Is the feature, is the main feature of that.
Gotcha. Okay, very good.
So it could be maybe, at his age, he was thinking, oh, this is what to do.
Yeah, okay. You spin me around, I guess, stalking. I could trace your private number, baby.
Yeah.
You spin me around, like you get so crazy that you're willing to do whatever to find somebody, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think of that one as stalking necessarily, but you're right. I just always took it as just like, I think I've mentioned on a previous episode, that song, I loved it for the music, but the video and the, the singer were very intimidating. And it like a lot. He was a lot. Mm-hmm. And so it was a little, so he was a lot. He was a bit much.
Yeah. And then Nick wrote, of course, I heard Boom Boom, which he's referring to Boom 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 by Paul Lukakis. Which if you don't know, because that was a dance song certainly I was familiar with because it was popular when I was DJing in the 1980s. But for folks who don't know, the lyrics, here you go. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go back to my room. And we could do it all night and that can make you feel right.
Can make you feel right. Yep.
I have if he wants to talk about songs that taught maybe about sex, there was tons for me in the 1980s like that I thought, oh, this is something, including many but from 2 Live Crew. Talk about bad love lessons. I'm not even kidding.
Those are just sex lessons. Those aren't even love lessons is the thing, right? Those are just animalistic desire lessons.
Yeah.
That's a difference, I think.
We might need to make a distinction.
Yeah, and I didn't act upon any of the suggestions from 2 Live Crew necessarily, no.
No?
That's true.
Right,
really?
Right.
Some call it Amtrak. Not all of us call it Amtrak.
Oh, come on,
Some of us
John,
do call it Amtrak.
John.
What?
That's got so much to do
I'm
with
asking.
Now I have to go look it up.
Don't not yeah. You know that's so. All right, that's a Da Vinci Code riddle back for you, Kat, to figure out.
There you go. Enjoy recording the show while you're trying to figure that out.
Nick writes he heard Boom Boom around the same time he saw Revenge of the Nerds and a fire was lit inside me. Do we need to call the police about Nick? I'm just realizing, is he confessing to a crime here?
Oh dear.
I don't think you need to call the police. He's probably already on a watch list.
Okay.
Oh, Nick. No.
Was he reaching out to us, notifying us?
Blink twice if you need help, Nick.
But thankfully, he writes, Erasure's music filled with broken hearts and hopeless love probably wasn't intended for my preteen self way back then. So
sure.
Oh,
yeah.
maybe it began to soften him. That anyway, before we talk about that, because we're going to share our love lessons, bad and good, from 1980s music, and I'm really curious what John will have to share because we've heard in past episodes, John has, I don't know, what would you say, Kat? How would you describe it? Unique take on romance or doesn't get...
a very... He doesn't wax prolific on romance.
Okay. He wants it to the action scene of a movie.
Oh.
And maybe he wants to get to the bridge of a song.
And by action scene, we don't mean that kind of movie. We mean a movie that has actual action in it, as opposed to the love story.
Right. Yes. All right. Get a little action. I got you. All right. Hey, before we do any of that, though, we're going to review current news stories related to 1980s media, including another 80s icon joins Stranger Things. The father of hip-hop will finally be inducted into the Rock Hall, and the new Flash movie pays tribute to a 1980s classic.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you my thoughts about that later. We'll warn you about some spoilers for that. There are time codes in the show notes if you'd like to skip around. Now, hey, before we move on, though, I wanted to do something real quick. Make a couple of corrections and just follow up to a couple of things that we talked about on the last episode when John and I were here by ourselves. All right. So, I'm not perfect, so I do make mistakes. Our last week's episode was, John and I talked about our fictional male role models, and that episode was inspired by another one of our friends / listeners / patrons, Brad. He wrote saying, what type of, we were looking for suggestions. We were desperate. And we did this in our secret Facebook group that is for our supporters and patrons. If you want to join that, you can go to 1980snow.com/support and find out how you can become a patron. His suggestion was, what type of male role models were prevalent in movies, media, and which ones did you or didn't identify with? So we took that as a jumping off point there. Thanks, Brad, so much. We appreciate it. And I said Conan once, and then I said Conan 50 other times. Conan O'Brien is the show host. Conan the Barbarian is the 80s action movie character.
I said Conan a lot too,
right.
But I said it because I like saying it dumb like that. Just like I say jalapeno for jalapeno, and just like I enjoy calling Spider-Man, Spider-Man. I think it's hilarious to mispronounce things ever so slightly. Right. Well, it's just Spider-Man, it's just because it's Spider-Man. Anyway, because it annoys people and I enjoy that. So that's why.
You sucked me in, John. You sucked me in hard. Into
I did. I said Conan. And
I said Conan to start. You'll hear. I start Conan first.
I heard it. I heard you say it.
He says Conan and that's it. It's done. Conan. And I know it's wrong. I just didn't hear it until after I was listening back. All right, anyway. Hey, and a couple of follow-ups. I did mention to John that I had heard or thought I had heard that James Cameron was coming back. I'll be back for the Terminator. So I did look into it and confirm, yes, he did, per Total Film, he did confirm that he's writing a new installment of the Terminator franchise. Of course, he wrote and directed the first two and was loosely involved in the most recent one, although, John loves them all. It was the better of any of the sequels, I think, probably, are among them.
Sure.
At the Dell Tech World Conference in May, Cameron alluded to the potential sequel where he explained that AI's growth inspired him.
Makes sense.
And according to the folks that were there at the event, he said he's waiting for AI to develop before taking the project further. He didn't say it was going to be a reboot or a sequel, but it might be too late, James. If the AI evolves, watch your own movies, dude.
Don't wait.
What is that? I don't know how to make of that. Yeah.
I didn't know how to put it into words, but I had that kind of thing going in the back of my head about that too.
Right. Just wait long enough. The AI will make the movie and you won't have to.
Yeah. Right. Oh,
You'll go to Chat GPT and it's like, show me the 17th projected film in the Terminator franchise.
He skips ahead. Yeah.
Right. And it like gives you an MPEG, right? You just watch it. It's like a made up movie.
It's great. Yeah. Support the writers, by the way. I know John does too.
Yes.
Now, this isn't the first time we heard him tease this, because he also on the Smart List podcast in April, I think it was, said he was in discussions to possibly revisit the franchise. And at that time he said, quote, "I would make it much more about the AI side of it than bad robots gone crazy."
Okay.
All right. Hey, that's enough of clearing all that stuff up. Let's get caught up on 1980s news. Hey, this week in 1980s news, per The Hollywood Reporter, speaking of the Terminator, Linda Hamilton has joined the final season of Stranger Things.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah, I think that is pretty cool, actually. I really did enjoy seeing the other folks that we recognize from the 1980s in the show. Mm-hmm. They did add this sort of, I don't know what it was, authenticity that really plays on its semiotics. Is that the word? Because just because we associate them with all these things we first saw in the 1980s, they carry with them this 80s stuff that we have stored in our head that we just, it feels more legit.
They unlock an 80s chamber in your brain when you see them, right? Because they're not mimicking the things we loved. They were there. They were part of it. And so you're right. It absolutely adds, even though they're playing a different character, different role, different story, it's like, oh yeah, I know who you are. Yeah. This is legit. Yeah.
It's like a direct through line. It
is. Right. Yeah.
It makes a bridge right to it.
I'm sure in part that's what they were hoping for, and good job, because you succeeded. Netflix announced the addition to the cast on Saturday, June 17th at their Tudum, I'm going to say, fan event. Maybe it's Tudum. I don't know. We don't know what role she's going to be playing. However, she appeared via a video message during the event that was introduced by her Terminator co-star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was actually there in Brazil to announce the renewal of his own show that he has on Netflix there. Stranger Things, by the way, which, this is one of those meta things. They've referenced the Terminator in the show, though not specifically Hamilton's role, Sarah Connor.
All right.
But they've done, they do a ton of 1980s pop culture callbacks. And again, in another effort to sort of just shortcut to those feelings that we have, I'm sure. But the Soviet assassin Grigori in season 3 was styled to look like the Terminator. And Carrie Elwes' character even refers to Grigori as Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point. So,
okay.
I didn't remember that.
So that was just from this most recent season then. Yeah.
No, 3. So one before.
Was it 3? One before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Is that, I guess it doesn't really matter. It's not really world breaking to have a character in a film, because she's not Linda Hamilton in this. She's somebody else.
Exactly.
So that's
right. She's a new character. That's right. If she were playing herself, that'd be different. Now, you could do that too if you wanted to, right? You could, maybe they're going to meet the woman who was in Terminator. Right. They could be, she played herself, but you have to de-age her and yada, yada, yada. I'm not doing that.
Of course, as we alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, she joins fellow 1980s breakouts Winona Ryder, Carrie Elwes, whom I mentioned, Matthew Modine, Sean Astin, Paul Reiser, and Robert Englund. It's probably not going to come out till sometime next year or longer, in part because of the writer's strike. We don't know how far along the Duffer Brothers got in writing the episodes. If they're more or less complete, I guess they could start shooting, but unless the actors also strike.
Yeah, because there are solidarity strikes going along with the writers' strikes as well. If you have no script changes if you have if you need changes, so you really could get stuck in the middle of production there. So,
of course, Hamilton appeared in 2019's Terminator Dark Fate, which is the most recent installment in the franchise.
Which I liked.
Hey, next up in 1980s news, as reported by the New Amsterdam News. I also don't know what that is, but it's one of the places I chose to reference. Try to spread the love around. Hopefully it's not like a neo-Nazi newspaper or something. Kool Herc to be introduced into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Who's Kool Herc, you say? And I say to you, come on. What have you been doing with your life?
I know who he is.
You do? I know you guys know. But Kool Herc he's the founding grandfather of hip hop. He's a Jamaican-born fellow who came over here and then introduced America, essentially first the Bronx, America, and then the world, to certain cultural aspects of Jamaican. I'm saying culture again. Certain things. Jamaica has a strong musical culture. We talked with Luxury a little bit about this. Certain things. Kat listened to the last time.
There we go.
She knows what's going on.
I know.
He's ego surfing with everybody he knows.
I'm just,
Okay.
it's promoting the episode. Sure. Yeah, sure. But we talked about this. And so one of the things that he brought over was this, the way he did his setup for his equipment, which is now familiar to us, all, and certainly the DJs, the two turntables, the mixer. And what he did during these parties that, in fact, they credit August 11th, 1973, this one particular party, which was to be a back to school event hosted by his sister. In their rec room, in the rec room of their building on Sedgwick Avenue there in the Bronx.
Oh my gosh.
He did this, and then obviously again, boom, two turntables. He became famous for extending the break beats, or using this instrumental part of a song that he could then on one turntable play the same thing on the second turntable seamlessly, going back and forth and have it just last as long as he wanted. It was a form of sampling, in the early 1970s. Yeah. Requiring much more artistry than recording something and pressing loop on a computer software, of course.
Right, because you got to do it in real time, and you have to be able to feel it and hear it and adjust it, and you're listening to one thing in your ear, another thing on the speakers, and then ultimately have it come out pure. Yeah, it's definitely a talent.
Right.
That's magic.
And then he and his master of ceremonies, MC, I feel like just to give an education to everybody right now, right? Blowing people's minds left and right. Coke LaRock, who was another legend, one of these early founders of hip hop. They formed the Herculoids, which was, it's regarded by many as the first hip hop music group. He could extend the beats. Coke LaRock will be, what we understand as rapping now, of course, at these parties. And there you go. That is the spark that lit the fuse that ultimately became hip hop now for the past 50 years. In fact, we're celebrating this year the 50th anniversary of hip hop because of his introduction of this style of music.
Right.
His turntablism in 1973.
Turntablism.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you just make that up, that word?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. No need to Google that.
He's a long-time turntablist. Yes.
Gratefully, we continue to honor folks in the Rock Hall that are not necessarily rock and roll. Get over it. Everything's derivative.
Music.
Yeah, music. There you go.
Right. Think about country and Western music, right? So what is today country and Western music would have been beyond Elvis in the 60s. Right? Because it used to be just all twangy banjos and stuff. And now it's much more rock. Country has become rock, while rock has become a harder rock. The line is so blurry. It's just, where's your allegiance following this? Whoever the artist is, whatever they're doing, you follow them into whatever territory they go into. And look, suddenly I'm a rock fan when I was following some country artists.
Yeah.
So it happens. Yeah.
And so much rock and roll has its roots in like black spiritual music,
blues and bluegrass, and
oh my gosh,
religious music, certainly.
Stuff.
Oh yeah.
Kool Herc, whose real name is Clive Campbell, will be honored with the Musical Influence Award. The ceremony will be at Brooklyn's Barclays Center on Friday, November 3rd during Hip Hop History Month.
Oh, okay.
So
this Hip Hop History Month.
Convergence of things. It's hip hop.
Yeah.
It's the year. We got the month. Yeah. And the locale of it, it's pretty close to the Bronx where hip hop was born.
And Will, what did you say was the category under which he's being inducted? Something about influence?
This says he's being honored with the Musical Influence Award.
Sounds too small to me.
Yes.
To say he was an influence just sounds like an understatement to what he actually contributed. But what
are the other categories? Because there's a performer category, but he didn't necessarily continue on, right? Like it's not like he's done.
I think it's the word influence that John's taking issue with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like he invented it, not he influenced it, right? Definitely he wasn't influenced.
I see what you mean.
But he was a pioneer. Like we need a pioneer award is what we need, actually.
That sounds right.
It's a little more.
All right, I get it.
All right. Hey, and finally in 1980s news, and as reported by Entertainment Weekly, and first confirmed by my eyes and ears, The Flash has a Back to the Future gag that actually has a basis in reality. Now, most folks listening to our show know this already. Now, again, I get John's seen The Flash. Cat hasn't seen it.
This is not a spoiler. I mean, this is stuff you could know from watching trailers, I think.
Then I don't get to press my ecto siren as a warning, though.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's,
minor spoilers for The Flash. Minor spoiler.
People want purity.
It's not going to affect anything that happens, but you're right. You can deduce at least in The Flash that time travel or time travel, multiverses, different timelines, that's involved. That's clearly,
yes.
I mean, that's
chronological location plays a factor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I said that this is regarding a Back to the Future reference. The whole film feels like Back to the Future, right? In a sense, or not the whole film.
Oh,
not the whole film. The contrivance of certain contrivances, you can't help but recall that earlier film.
Don't worry about me not seeing it. I'm not sure that that's going to happen anytime soon. So you can say anything to me.
I got to tell you, John, when Kat's on the show, she can't think that, thousands of people may be listening. She has to think like it's just the three of us.
Exactly.
Well, it is just the three of us as far as Kat knows.
As if I'm just worried about spoiling it for her.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell her.
It's okay. Don't tell her any different. It's okay.
All right, let's just talk about it. So, so he does travel to a different timeline, let's say. And when he does that, again, avoiding spoilers, one of the ways he knows he's not in the timeline, let's say that his own timeline, his original timeline, is there's been a change to Back to the Future. So when they start talking about Back to the Future, and I think one of them makes even a reference to what's happening to the Flash as far as time traveling, et cetera, being like Back to the Future. And it comes up, I don't remember what they said. It's like, maybe the reference is something like, it's just like Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Yeah.
Now, of course, that Eric Stoltz was originally cast to play Marty McFly in Back to the Future and was fired several weeks into production when Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale realized, the director and screenwriter respectively, realized Stoltz was playing it too seriously. And again, they shot a lot of the scenes, including, my understanding is, the final moments, and maybe they didn't shoot in order, but when Marty comes back and everything has changed, and I think Stoltz's take is good on this, but except this is a comedy movie, so it's not appropriate at this time. Mm-hmm. He's upset. Like, what is this life? Because he doesn't share their memories. He's been just dropped into this world where, for the past how old he is, 18 years. His memories of his, middle class family that, is just getting by. Now he's in this well-to-do family with a successful, father who's brave, who's an author. That there's this existential. Am I making it clear? I mean, it's like, can fuck you up in the head. And he acted like that. And they're like, this is a comedy.
Right. But that wasn't the angle of time travel they wanted to explore in this movie. No. And he just didn't get it. He wasn't in tune.
Yeah.
So they couldn't see eye to eye. So he went. But anyway, so in this Flash movie, a running gag is that Eric Stoltz was Marty McFly, and this comes up a few times throughout the film.
Well, and you have to point out that I'm not going to say any more of them, but the joke doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
Because it continues to riff on like this cascading effect of people in other roles of other films that they may or may not have been in contention for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So when they're corrected, right, it goes, no, Michael J. Fox. You mean, the guy in such and such that he was not in our universe. Like, no, that was this other guy. Oh, no, he was the guy in this. There was this cascade of kind of pseudo meta roles that, but for the fact that Eric Stoltz was recast, maybe these other actors would have been in other things, that they could have been in contention. Like imagine Pierce Brosnan could have been James Bond much sooner, but for the Remington Steel, right? So imagine a world where Pierce Brosnan was available. Therefore, what happened to Remington Steel? Maybe,
Right.
But they continued the joke in this parallel or different or changed reality. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Similarly, when Flash director Andy Muschietti was at CinemaCon in April, he realized that while he knew the story of Stoltz getting fired, he didn't know that resulted in Melora Hardin getting fired, who was originally playing Jennifer Parker, because she was, as Andy Muschietti says, quote, at least 3 feet higher than Fox.
She was too tall. I did remember that. Yeah.
So they had to hire a shorter actress, end quote. Of course, that the actress was friend of the show, Claudia Wells. Moving on.
Yep.
Who, like Fox.
Not getting away with it.
I didn't have the paper ready. I could have tried to steamroll you, but I wasn't sure where I was going. Claudia Wells and Michael J. Fox were the two originally chosen and wanted to play those two parts, Marty McFly and Jennifer Parker. They both had scheduling conflicts. And, we talked about how Michael J. Fox, you see some of the scheduling conflicts he had in his documentary still that just came out.
Oh, yeah.
That they eventually had to figure out because we have to get rid of this Eric Stoltz guy. He's doing Hamlet.
Whatever it takes.
Not coincidentally, however, Zemeckis, again, who directed Back to the Future, was the third choice. And in 2017, the front runner to direct the Flash movie.
Oh, really?
But Zemeckis asked that he be taken out of contention because he chose instead to direct Steve Carell in that movie, Welcome to Marwen, which is a smaller indie film where a guy deals with his trauma by it's based on a true story, making models and dolls about, that represent him and these other characters in his real life.
I didn't like that film, but I love documentaries. So I went and got the documentary and I liked it even less.
Oh, man.
The guy's so unlikable. They're trying real hard. Yeah. He's actually more likable in the docudrama with Steve Carell.
Oh, boy.
Hey, I enjoyed The Flash. In the very least, and this is not a spoiler either, you get to see Michael Keaton as Batman again. And for me, that was the highlight of the movie. The movie has other issues.
Okay, maybe I will see it.
For me, that was the best part of it. And there's so many wonderful scene-stealing moments with him that...
Okay, that could inspire me to see it.
You've got to go into this... You've got to leave your actually at the door. Like, don't go in ready to go, well, no. Just enjoy a spectacle of the world's prettiest full motion video game you've ever seen.
By the way, the video game is from the 1990s.
It's not that bad.
I would say Michael Keaton's not the only thing from the 1980s. The visual graphics
are the digital effects, right?
Cat, they're bad. They're really bad, Cat.
Oh, no. Man.
They can be.
Stunningly bad. But I don't fault the VFX guys because I've read a number of articles about how much pressure they're put under, how little resources they have, how little time they're given to turn these things around. That they get to a point where they're like, we're done. And the studios are like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because the studios don't care. They're like, by the time people see it and pay a ticket to see it, we got their money.
Right. They've already got their money. Yeah, right.
So that did it interfere with your enjoyment of the movie?
Mine, 100%.
Did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was able to forgive it and watch the film. I had a good time at the film, but I compartmentalized my dissatisfaction with the CGI choices.
I guess while I watched it, you know what I would do, John? Seriously, I would do this. I would look at a different part of the screen that wasn't upsetting.
So you don't have to look don't look at that face or that
exactly.
mouth.
Like, I would look at a different face.
Don't look.
Oh.
Yeah.
Don't look at that baby. Look at something else.
Oh, the babies.
Don't look at that dog. Don't look at, look at
the dog.
Oftentimes I was staring at my feet in the theater, but that was okay. Because the audio, pristine. Chef's kiss, as John would say.
Delicious. Yes.
All right. Hey, that was 1980s news. Hey, our independent podcast is brought to you every week by folks just like you. So if you'd like to help us out, please follow us on the podcast platform you're listening to right now. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share an episode on Facebook. All of these actions just take a moment and are 100% free. But if you'd like to chuck in a buck and help us keep publishing the show week after week, please visit us at 1980snow.com/support to find out how you can send us $1 or $2. And thank you so much. It means a lot. All right, hey, as we mentioned, we're going to be talking about the love lessons that we learned from 1980s music. Now, I say 1980s music, and quite honestly, and I messaged you guys this, it doesn't have to be 1980s music.
Yeah.
And at first, I had songs from the 70s because,
okay,
that's the era in which we grew up, 70s and 80s. But I ultimately tossed out a bunch of songs, and it just wound up that the songs that I'm left with are from the 1980s.
Spoken like a guy who's ready to break the rules and pick something not in the 80s.
I'm in the 80s. I am. Now look, I've said this I'm not so hard and fast about that anymore, but.
I'm in the 80s too. There's so many choices, but I thought, no, I'm going to stick to the 80s. So there was plenty. Well, in the 80s. Look, I as I often do, and like last week, forget to tell you though, I did some research about this idea because I wanted to know a couple things, and it included the fact, have there been any studies with any smart things written about folks extracting meaning from lyrics, or using them as, to create, various tenets of their faith or, morality, that sort of thing. Really, there's next to nothing that examines. I found one paper though, and found one paper and this other interesting. I don't remember what it was now. Anyway, I put the links in the show notes so folks can read if they want. But just quickly, and this is not. I don't think this is going to be any surprise to you. I think the fact that I started off my list had 70s and 80s is because a couple things are come into play. Teenagers are huge consumers of music, right? Yeah.
And add that in the fact that during our teen years, research shows that our brains are more. It's the second most impressionable stage of our lives. After our first 2 years of following birth.
Right. Was that first 4 where you're getting sexy, as Kat taught us? And then after
John, you open a whole jar of pickles I don't want to get into here. Sexy babies? Is that what Kat was saying before?
She told us a story about how during your first 4 years you're getting sexy and learning to dance, and
that was on our last week's.
That was last week. That's right. I don't forget.
Yeah,
I don't forget. I thought I wasn't listening. I was paying attention. I was taking notes.
I feel misrepresented.
I did not write sexy babies down.
They're wearing baby rings.
Anyway, you combine these things together. Teenagers are really into music. It's an impressionable age. And music, certainly pop music and other forms of music, but we're talking about music with lyrics, obviously, is accessible, for the most part. So there you go. That's just, I think that's, sort of the perfect cocktail for us to be open and receptive to songs during our most formative years. And that's where most of my songs land.
I'd like to add something in here that I have to confess that it's not like I didn't pay attention to lyrics at all. Okay. Of course, there were words or phrases that would pop out at me, but for the most part, it's not something I scrutinized. It was, I was more interested in the actual music and how I felt about it, and and just how it sounded. And not that it didn't matter what the lyrics were, and I memorized many, but I didn't. It almost didn't matter what the lyrics were.
If you got them right, even, because sometimes we just didn't know.
It's just
sometimes we just didn't know.
Just whether or not they inspired a gentle mounting.
Draping.
Draping.
I came across a quote in one of these papers that I wrote that I thought was interesting too, along the lines of what you're saying, Kat, is that this Yip Harburg, who I wasn't familiar with that name, but he wrote Somewhere Over the Rainbow among his other contributions to American music. He said, quote, "Words make you think, music makes you feel, but a song makes you feel thoughts."
Okay. Yeah.
The music almost opens us up emotionally, and then the words are able to sort of, draft the music and come in.
I like that.
So let's talk about some of our songs. And I found something out really neat about the state of lyrics today as compared to the 1980s that I'll share with you a little bit later.
Oh, cool.
All right, I'm going to go first here. I'm going to tell you, look, this is no particular order, really. This is the order that I wrote them in. And I started off with a much longer list, and I just started scrapping ones because two things. One, if I could keep it in the 80s and not break any rules so John wouldn't give me shit, I did that.
Too late.
Two, the second thing is some songs I realized I included were just about a feeling that it gave me about love, but I couldn't extract a lesson from it. There was no articulable, this is something I would apply to my life or change my worldview on love.
All right.
My first one is, and you're going to notice a trend at some point here,
okay,
is Tell Her About It. Billy Joel.
Okay.
1983.
Oh, yeah.
We know Kat's not going to tell us anything about the songs, and that's fine. But I'm going to tell you that not only was it written and performed by Billy Joel from his album Innocent Man, it was number one on the Billboard Hot 100 for a week in 1983, replacing Maniac by Michael Cimbello. And of course, it was ultimately certified gold, like many of his songs. Okay, here is, I'm going to give you a lyric because this, from a lot of these songs, many of the sort of words spoke to me, but sometimes there's just like one little lyric will epitomize sort of what I extracted from it as a lesson.
Okay.
The lyric, listen, oh, there's a few lyrics actually. Wait, did I have this? All right, this is a lot of lyrics for one song. Huh.
Bring it on.
Okay, here you go. Listen, boy, I don't want you to, I'm going to try to say it without singing. That's the tricky part. Listen, boy, I don't want to see you let a good thing slip away. I don't like watching anybody make the same mistakes I made. All right. So now already I'm open because at the time this song came out, I was like 12, 13 years old. And Billy Joel at that point had become one of my favorite musicians. And ultimately you're going to learn based on my music list that he really did become like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, like a force ghost for me. Like, we were talking about fictional role models last week, John and I, when Kat was gone. If you want to talk about a non-fictional role model, was Billy Joel. So many lessons I took from his music. Now, some of them were bad and I learned better later on because he was going, he had gone through divorce. And so some of that affected you don't listen to Captain Jack and come away with good messages. Then, of course, he says the most important thing. Tell her about it. Tell her everything you feel. Give her every reason to accept that you're for real. Tell her about it. Tell her all your crazy dreams. Let her know you need her. Let her know how much she means. Now, I have a specific memory. 7th or 8th grade on my bike, my BMX bike in Jersey City. My best friend at the time, Mark, and I are biking around a factory on Ravine Avenue, which we treated as the Death Star. I think it was an abandoned factory, but it was the Death Star. It had like a alley that cut like through the middle of the building. So that was the trench run.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I remember doing this and suddenly, and I was remembering that earlier, I don't know, that day, that week, my parents had said, we're going to move away to the suburbs, out of the city.
Oh,
and I was really devastated because I had lived in Jersey City my whole life. And there was a girl I liked. And I had this song going on my head. And I remember having this sort of epiphany at this, just before we were about to, fire the photon torpedoes. Stay on target, stay on target. That I had to tell this girl I liked how I felt. Billy was saying that's what you need to do. If you want her to, reciprocate, if you want her to, understand, what's the word? I don't know.
You felt like the finality of it. It was like,
the deadline of moving. Yeah.
Right?
That became a thing. Yeah.
So this had a very time critical, like this is something that affected you at a specific point in time. Like, it's not just overall your attitudes toward relationships, but actually at this moment it hit you.
It was like yes. I want to say it was like a commandment, but it was clear to me what I had to do because Billy said I had to do it, which was to be open and share my feelings, which is interesting because it was counter to what other men in my life had told me at this point, which was don't tell any woman anything about yourself because they will use it against you eventually.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something like that, almost like that. Yeah, play it cool. Like don't give anything away. Don't be vulnerable.
Yeah, that would have been to be cool. I was almost told this to be safe, to avoid a broken heart.
Okay.
So I did live my life for a period of my life like that. Oh. Anyway, it turns out my parents, probably later that day or the next day were like, we're not moving. We were just talking. And completely upended this whole emotional upheaval I had for, 24 hours. I didn't wind up telling this girl about it at all because I totally chickened out.
You didn't tell her
You
about
chickened out.
You didn't.
You got to get out of jail free card and spent it right away.
I found a way of expressing how I felt, but literally it was probably if you like me, check yes or no kind of thing because we were dating, for like a month. Which just meant, we held hands every now and then or something like that. All right, John, you got one?
I do. You set this up and now I'm wondering how very different each of us are going to approach kind of like what we mean by things we learned, right? Yeah, yours was very specific and it was very time sensitive and it was at a certain point in time. Yeah. And mine are really, I guess I would say that there are attitudes that I have learned from music, from love songs that I have adopted that when I look back, I'm like, yep, I remember that resonating with me. I don't know if I learned it from the song or if it aligned with my beliefs, but it fits and it's one that I'll stand by. So the first one that I selected is from 1988 from Paula Abdul's debut album, Forever Your Girl. And it's Straight Up.
It is Straight Up. Okay.
I love Straight Up because what's happening in the song is, and again, I have to be careful not to sing it. Straight up now tell me, is it going to be you and me forever or am I caught in a hit and run? And there you go, see Kat singing it, Will singing it. But I think it's the honesty in relationships that I don't like playing the damn games. I don't like, I'm going to neg you for a day and I won't call you back for a week and I won't text you until stop it. Just be honest because when you're young, that's fun to screw around and mess with people. But I learned as I got older, life is too short for that. If you actually care about someone and you actually do want to be serious about that, don't screw around. Don't let them slip. Don't. And so I always appreciated that in people that I was close to. If you would just look, don't mope. Don't give me the silent treatment. Like, quit it. Just tell me what the problem is. Right? I much more appreciate the direct approach.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear that song, I'm like, similar to Sir Mix-a-Lot, which doesn't sound like he's necessarily in Baby Got Back. It's talking about how sensitive he is to the female experience, but Straight Up is not about let's get together for a hookup. It's like, before we do any of this, just tell me, where do we stand? Be honest with me.
And doesn't that kind of go hand in hand with what Will just talked about too?
I'm sure it does. Of course. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Tell her about it. Right.
Tell her about it.
Will was dancing around telling her. He felt like this song might push him over the edge, and then he got to the precipice and stopped and didn't quite make it.
Well, he was going through the trenches. He didn't exactly stay on target.
You didn't stay on target.
Negative impact. It just impacted on the surface.
like shooting womp rats.
That's a different part of the movie.
Yes, it is. Yeah, don't look it up, Kat. You'll find it. So whereas Will's was that very specific and mine kind of aligns with my beliefs, I'm super curious to hear what Kat's first selection.
Ready for some bebop jazz?
I have categories of things, and I'm going to align one of my categories. It's not one song with kind of with what you guys just talked about, which was one thing that I've known, but it really made me reflect on while thinking about this, is I was really drawn to songs by men singing the praises of women.
Okay, sure.
And I was drawn to them because I wished for it, I think is the best way to say it. So my self-esteem was not at a point where I felt confident in my desirability or, like we were talking about last time, other things. And so, yeah, I wasn't feeling great about like possibly being attractive to somebody. So I lived vicariously through so many songs. Like so many Hall and Oates songs, Kiss on my list, You Make My Dreams Come True, those, of course, the obvious, like Hungry Like the Wolf in Rio, or even like Prince's Kiss, or Need You Tonight by NXS, or True, Spandau Ballet for True, or also, and there's one in particular, I Melt With You by Modern English. So basically like songs about physical attraction, intimacy, and of course, sex being involved, in spite of what you guys might think about my knowledge in that arena, gave me hope and perhaps some confidence and some happy feelings. Now, the I Melt With You, that one is specifically important. When we were talking about proms and the dancing thing, do you remember I told you how I used to kind of just go around the periphery? I wasn't part of the dancing, and I was the yearbook photographer taking pictures, and so I was there, but I wasn't involved. And there was one particular semi-formal where someone that I had a crush on at the time was dancing. It was a big circle. It was one of the big,
not the snake charmer.
No, not the snake. I had a lot of crushes. This was one of many. And so this big circle had formed, and this song was playing. I Melt With You was playing, and he was just like lost in the song and having a great time.
He's dancing by himself at this moment?
Dancing. No, I mean he was with other people, but it wasn't any kind of couples dance situation. It was just a big circle of my peers dancing together, and I was watching him, and I just was like, man, like I just wanted to be doing that as well, and it wasn't something I felt like I could do at the time, and but it's burned in my brain, that memory. It's like I wanted to melt with somebody. I just wanted to feel that.
Yeah,
so, there you go. There's my first contribution.
Okay, I see where you're going now.
Conversation.
And that's a very specific thing that ultimately when you come to that, all these songs add up to this idea of ultimately melting with somebody.
Yeah.
And it sounds like to give you confidence to ultimately maybe find someone to do that with.
Yes, I think the lesson was from all of those types of songs, the lesson was for me to have hope and to just, kind of stay the course.
Yeah.
Keep in the trenches, as it were.
I love how all your songs sort of add up to that. You just sort of put them all together. But you remind me of one of my songs, and some of these, like, John had pointed out, some of them are specific lessons. That very first one I gave you, that's so on the nose and,
sure,
was what was needed, what was at that moment. That most of them are like that.
Yep.
But another song for you, and again, they're not all Billy Joel. Well, there's a lot of Billy Joel on my list, but I don't know how many of these will wind up sharing on air, but this is my second one here. Maybe there's one or two. Is Billy Joel's, and you remind me of this, that's why I'm saying it, Uptown Girl, for the same reason. This song that also came out in 1983, also on the same album as Tell Her About It. Again, it was during a very impressionable, age. I was like 12 or 13 years old, just, either just starting puberty or pre-pubescent, but certainly starting to feel emotions for the for the girls in my elementary school, and so
lunch lady, coat check lady, bus lady,
the ladies and the girls, and also, by the way, at this age, I think I was in Catholic school, so let's throw the nuns in there too.
Nun lady,
sure. Black and white does it for me. But this song in particular, as I mentioned, was released on Innocent Man. So Tell Her About It hit number 1. This one hit number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. But it was also certified 3 times platinum as compared to just simply gold for Tell Her About It. And here is the lyrics that I'll give you the lyrics first. I like how we're all doing this a little differently too, by the way.
See?
These are the lyrics that I think epitomize what I extrapolated from this. She's been living in her white bread world as long as anyone can with hot blood can, and now she's looking for a downtown man. That's what I am. It's a similar like what you're saying, Kat, was that idea that maybe it gave me hope that I could have a Romeo and Juliet type love story with less poison, murder, and suicide with someone that would otherwise maybe be considered out of my league, you know? So, and part of that was probably driven by the fact that in a lot of these 1980s movies that we would see, you know, ones where the guy got the girl, I don't know that at this point I felt confident enough to just completely, you know, supplant in my even imagination me getting those girls. In a fantasy way, maybe while watching the movie, but not believing that ultimately I could be attractive to a woman of these calibers, of these, you know, ingenues in these 80s films for whatever reason. But, you know, and later in life, we would have more of these films where it's certainly 1980s, like even Pretty in Pink. Think about that, you know, with Blaine versus Ducky. And the, was it Some Kind of Wonderful, the sort of flip, you know, of that where you've got people dating outside of there. So it gave me hope for that maybe I could aspire outside of my, you know, circle. And it did.
Fighting above your weight class kind of thing, right?
Now, of course, I also told this story, I know before, and I certainly told it on Jackie and Dion's show, And the Beat Goes On. I had an experience where I was very much out of my circle. It didn't work out. So just for the movies.
Don't believe the propaganda. It's not true.
Yeah. It created barriers. They were real. All right, Johnny, what you got?
So my next one is from 1980. Barely makes it in the 80s, but it counts.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I were to tell you, you could guess it. I was just thinking, we didn't compare notes. I'm wondering if any of us have any of the same songs on our list, but I'd be curious to see.
I'm wondering too.
Yeah, but mine is widely considered REO Speedwagon's greatest hit ever.
Huh. Okay.
It was the first song that broke the top 50 on Billboard's 100.
Okay.
You're the reason in my life. You're the inspiration.
No.
Is that Chicago?
Peaked at number 7. I think it's Chicago, by the way. Yeah. So this is Keep On Loving You.
Because
I'm going to keep on loving you.
Yep. It's the only thing I want to do. Now, again, all of mine really are, I don't know if I learned this from that song, but whenever I hear it, it aligns with what I believe and whatever, to the fact that since this permeated my youth, I quite likely had an impact because every time I turned on the radio, it was on. But if you listen to it, like every breath you take, it's a catchy tune, but if you listen to it, you're like, oh my, I should not be listening to this song and thinking of love things, right? It's just kind of creepy.
Oh boy.
But Keep On Loving You tells a great story. I'm not going to try, I'm going to paraphrase. I'm not because I'll sing it if I do, but essentially it's from the man's perspective, and his girlfriend or his wife or whoever he's enamored with has a history, there were other people in his life, maybe even after him, they've been back and forth, kind of thing, on again, off again, I envision. And it even starts with like they're having an argument, like you just curled up on the grass and didn't want to talk. But here's the thing. The thing I've learned from it is the come around where he goes, it was us, baby, way before them, and we're still together. So it's what I always pulled out of that was like the reliability and persistence of long-term love and relationships. Like maybe it didn't work the first time around. Okay. But if you have this history, you have something that grounds you and binds you together. Maybe you were together when you were, when you were freshmen in college or something, but it didn't work out. But it was us, baby, way before then. There's still something there. Yeah. And it's both the persistence of love even after you're out of it, which I think is not universal, but I think it more often than not, even if you break something off, it's not like a light switch. It's not over, right? There's something there.
Oh my God, John.
And so there's that continuation of love beyond the first time maybe you hooked up or got together, but also that there's more there. There's a history that you can build upon that you don't need to just give up because it didn't work out the first time. And I like that about this song. And I think probably the first 100 times I heard it, when I was too young to appreciate it, I didn't know what it was about. But just like you're doing the trench run and you got to move, Will, when I heard it at the right time, I'm like, that just clicked. Now I get it. I know that's me. I know who that is. I know who I'm talking to. And it resonates. And it's all things that I believe.
These characters in the song, or as they apply to you in your real life, that's this metaphor in the song that how it applied to your real life. Are these people, you say they hooked up the first time. You mean that ultimately they get back together and then they stay together?
That's what's happening in the song. That's maybe on the precipice of maybe not continuing it. But I know that what's happening is, and this is a trend, and my next one we'll talk about, but of just bearing your soul and being honest. We did it with Straight Up that I talked about, which is like, just come out and say what it is that you want. And here it's like, look, I know all these things. You're not keeping any secrets from me. I know what you've been up to, but we have something here. Don't let's just say we don't have something because it's currently off. Let's talk about it. And what is it that actually grounds us together?
John.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard that song a zillion times, right? Like you
Sure.
know, it's on the radio.
It's her ringtone.
For me, when I call.
It's the reminder.
And this is one of those songs I referenced earlier about not paying attention to the lyrics. Like, I absolutely can tell you I never ever thought about any particular meaning. And really, like in the lyrics, it was just about love. Keep on loving you. Like, that's all I needed from the song. Well, you've given me, I was having this like epiphany or this connection to what you were saying. Yeah. And Will might know what I'm about to talk about. I don't know. I recently went to my college reunion.
You're there?
Okay. And it's not exactly what it's not like I'm going to get back together with these people, but I had the very unique experience of spending much time with and also being at the same dinner table with the only 3 men that I've ever dated in my whole life.
Really?
Who are all friends.
At the same place. Wow.
Same place. It years ago, it happened one time and it freaked me out. But I
can see that.
But this was amazing. It was awesome.
Amazing. Really?
Because, I'll tell you why. I mean, these are the other 2 people I'm still in touch with, and it's something that I'm so happy about because yes, we were together, and it was like super meaningful. Like my first boyfriend, like awesome first boyfriend.
Sure.
And then I broke up with him for the next guy, who wooed me. And that was awesome. But then I broke up with him for my husband now, like it was this boom, boom, I was a serial monogamist, but, why am I'm giving you TMI? My point is that I still love them. Right. And I feel loved by them. Like we were all just comfortable and hanging around. And I've seen both of them in other contexts, or we've had communication. And I love that we can still have that connection. Yeah. It's, it's not like we broke up and that's it.
That's my point.
They're both still so meaningful.
It's not a light switch. It's not necessarily just over. Yeah. Maybe that part of your relationship is over. Even if just all you are now is deep friends. It's not just turned off. It's not a light switch. It's not death. Right. It's a change maybe. And who knows what it could become, but there's something there. That's kind of,
look, I've talked to you guys about this, probably not on the air necessarily, but I think Kat's scenario is, is ideal in a sense, that they've broken up and, now they're much more mature and it's, 30 years later, literally 30 years later, that they have the benefit of all these life experiences and maturity into the people in their lives that they can just be friends now and just love each other in this platonic way. I think that's amazing. And that you still have these shared histories that it could literally be, remember in 1992 when we went to that thing? That's great. I had this opposite experience where I don't have any connection with anybody I've ever dated before. And it's weird. It's like, what do I do with these memories and feelings of love? It just sits in a folder in there. And every now and then it's like, hey, remember this thing? Yeah, I do. But no one else. I mean, no. Anyway. All right, Kat, why don't you hit us with one of your categories?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
A little bit contrary to the topic before of like songs that just made me feel good and hopeful. There were several songs that had a twist to them for me. So like a bittersweet edge.
Like an O. Henry twist? It turns out the person you were dating is, I don't know. Your cousin? I don't know what a twist would be.
Now,
let's hope not.
I so hope you pick my favorite twist, but I know you're not going to, so that's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I think I know. Okay.
I have no idea. I have no
think I know
idea.
what you're thinking,
Okay. Well, in this first one, I can't wait to hear. Okay, this first one is not necessarily a twist per se, and it is very on the nose, as you say. Phil Collins' cover of "You Can't Hurry Love." Okay. That it was along the same lines of giving me hope, like be patient. But at the same time, when I would listen to the song, I felt so bad for him. It kind of was like hopeful.
Yeah.
But it was like,
some
man,
aspect of
like,
it's
I really
unrequited
hope
at some
this works
point,
out for
right?
you.
But he's waiting. You're going to wait because you can't hurry it.
He's just
Right.
waiting, waiting and waiting. And I could identify with that. So it had that little edge to it of like,
All right.
oh man, that's me too. And the next one actually is Save a Prayer, which Nick Guillory had mentioned in the comment you had earlier. That song, well, of course, it's by Duran. Oh, yeah, I always said who did Can't Hurry Love. Oh, it's by Duran Duran, of course. And it's, for me, so visceral. And I wasn't really even thinking about the details. Like in Simon's lyrics, you already know how I am with lyrics. And Simon's lyrics from that time are just frequently so obtuse.
Right, yeah.
I
He's
never
a poet, yeah.
really knew what, exactly. And half the time I didn't know what he was talking about. But this song was my first awareness of what one night stand meant.
Okay.
And I was pretty sure it was something I didn't want, especially for multiple reasons.
Now, wait, Kat. I have to ask you.
Yeah.
This is not a dig or making you Google something. When you learned what a one night stand was, great, and you said it was something you didn't want. Is it something you didn't want because it was painted as a negative thing, or is it something you didn't want because you understood it and you didn't emotionally want that for yourself?
I'm really happy you asked that question, John, because I was also like pondering this because I'm like, what? Like, why is this standing out for me? I was raised Roman Catholic.
Okay.
I went to Catholic school and the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And
Shebang is one of the saints, John, just so you know.
Oh, is it?
Saint
I didn't know that saint. It's what is the patron saint of? I do know.
one night stands.
One night stands. Oh, wait, the hole in the one night stand?
Oh, please, shebang.
And
Give me a
isn't
one night
that
stand.
That's a Ricky Martin song, right?
Please,
Shebang.
shebang.
She bangs.
Mighty
She
shebang.
bangs.
All I want.
Oh my God. Where is this
She
going?
bangs. She bangs.
Sorry.
She bangs. Oh my God.
Sorry. Back to you, Kat.
Okay. So it's okay.
In the studio with the show already in
I
progress.
think I'm derailed.
Now you know how Will feels.
This is the John and Will show. We bonded when you weren't here.
Blah, blah, blah. Will's, Kat's talking now.
Karma.
Yeah.
This is my karma. So I was programmed to believe that something like that was
Okay.
not a good
Right,
choice,
sure.
right? Definitely, it was programmed.
So you understood
But
what it was
this-
clearly, but
yes,
the mores that
Yes.
you had been taught did not align with those. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not to derail this
Exactly.
even further, but I know on the show, like we talked about, John and I give you stuff to Google. How did you find out what a one night stand was in 1980? What's Save a Prayer? 84, 85?
the schoolyard, man.
Yeah. Just asking around.
Yeah, and that's pretty much. Yeah, I don't even know if I asked any. I don't know if I had to ask this one. I just know it was somehow part of my consciousness, and that's how I learned about anything. Actually, like seriously.
Yeah.
What was by
Picked it up on the street.
Yeah, I did. So I knew it was like my Jiminy Cricket. I was like, oh no, this is bad. This isn't something you do. But at the same time, like there was this contrast because this song is amazing. I loved it. Swoon, draping.
The
This was
draping.
another
Soft mounting.
This was another drape. Oh man.
That's another thing. Listen to the bonus episode from last week.
So that's why it's bittersweet. It's like it had this thing going on. And but I did know it was about connection, and I did want that connection because it painted this passionate thing about connection. And also this song raised my awareness about the probable loss that comes along with loving someone. or being loved, and not in a super concrete way, but just more in a feeling way. I think because of the tone of the song. There's one more I'm going to mention here.
Okay.
Careless Whisper.
Of course.
My other
Naturally.
raping song. My first raping song. Of course, wait, was this by Wham or George Michael?
I think it's Wham, actually.
I think it's Wham. Yeah, I think it's Wham.
Which is the sound you made when you climbed on the speaker.
When it fell over. Wham!
While I was swooning.
Oh.
The saxophone, right? And George Michael's voice. And I feel very sure that the video heavily influenced me here in this bittersweet kind of thing. But I really felt for the woman in that was, being sung about or was in the video, that she got cheated on. And so it was like heart-wrenching for me. And it had a very specific lesson for me. Like, cheating is bad. Don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
And so this is the closest that I come to. I'm not going to say there's a bad lesson here. That's not what I mean. Like, I wasn't learning a bad lesson, but it was, it was kind of. I really felt for. I felt for her that got cheated on.
Now, do you think you were you projecting or mapping that onto yourself and how you might feel, or was it just purely empathy for someone else? Were you able to map yourself into that at that age, or?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm certainly. I was identifying with her, with the
Sure.
the woman that got cheated on.
Right.
Yeah. Well, honesty is a big thing for me. Deception, like I can't, unless it's for like a April Fool's joke or or
a birthday party.
Yeah, right.
Imagine cats at the birthday party. Surprise! You lied to me. You said this was we were here to celebrate my parents' 50th anniversary. I am out of here.
Right. So yeah, deception in any form other than well-meaning is like.
Yeah.
It was a big. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
there?
of course. Yeah. Will, how about you?
Yeah. So yeah, look, I've got one more. I've got lots more, but I'm going to pick one. And I'm going to pick a non-Billy Joel one. And some of these kind of, overlap to what you guys are saying. So I'm looking for something a little bit
If only the
different.
listeners could see how many pages you're going through to find the non-Billy Joel ones. You're just flipping pages. No.
This is he's not lying.
Shuffle.
He is not lying.
Shuffle.
All right. So this is the one I'm going to talk about. All right. So here we go. 1986. Take your heads back to 1986. Let's travel back in time. Like
was that book we talked about? I was a junior in high school.
What Have You Done For Me Lately by Janet Jackson.
Oh.
Great song.
Now this, like the Tell Her About It, I have a very specific memory of. And just as an aside, of course, this is from Janet's third studio album. My favorite, I think, Control.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
She co-wrote this with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, the legendary songwriting duo. And it reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was certified gold. And for all those reasons, I was playing it at a block party as a DJ. Shortly after it came out, I had the 12-inch version of it. And I remember I was on someone's porch is where I set up my speakers and my turntables, and much like Cool Herc.
Exactly.
That's just what I was thinking. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. This is only 13 years after Cool Herc was doing this in the in the Bronx, and now here I'm in Jersey City having a block party.
Where's your induction into the Hall of Fame? Come on.
I know, motherfuckers. Well, if he's the influencer or pioneer, what am I? I am the
Poser.
I thought you saying, is there like
Was that too harsh, Cat? Did I go too far? Sorry.
I thought there was going to be
Disciple?
something before that.
I'm sorry I had that in the chamber. Did
you?
Please don't take it personally.
I won the Listens to Hip Hop Award. A poser. That's really that cuts to the quick.
Oh.
So
I don't mean that. It was just funny in my brain, so I said it.
Oh man.
it doesn't make it less funny that you don't mean it.
No, it's more funny maybe.
So there was a girl that I liked about this time, and we ultimately wound up dating. I think a little bit later, maybe I don't know how much later. Year or month, whether it's a few months or a year later, I don't remember. But I liked her, and she was
Because you told her about it, right? Because you told her about it.
Huh? No,
Tell her about it, or did she
there's
tell
a whole
you
story
about
for
it?
off the air.
Okay. All right.
It's why I connect to listen to our bonus episode. Why I connect to Sky McDonald's chapter 3.
Oh, direct connection.
I had a similar experience.
Oh my!
Wow.
Anyway,
all right.
but yeah, that's for off the air. But I liked this girl and she was there. And at the time I really was, again, like Billy Joel. And I was just this kid who was constantly, and again, maybe it's because of the reasons we said about just our vulnerability to how we are receptacles for information. We're sponges again at this age as we were when we were still sexy babies. Several years later, when we're wanting to be sexy teens or whatever, this is all sounding terrible. We're just really open to this information. And I looked for metaphors in everything. So not just music, movies, books, some observing strangers. Like I looked for signs, and part of what I read, some of that smart stuff I said I read this article was trying to connect sort of why we even seek, why we try to get meaning out of message or lyrics to begin with. And he started with first that humans want to find meaning in things. And the reason why they do, or at least one of the results of it is having satisfaction with life. If you can find a reason you have this job or it's meaningful to the company or the world, I have satisfaction. Yeah. If I have meaning in this particular relationship, I understand my role and how I'm valued for satisfaction. And I think I feel like he wasn't as clear in this article, but the leap he makes or the connection he tries to make is, therefore, this is looking at lyrics is just another way to extract meaning and, for whatever, my existence, et cetera, and so forth. And as we talked about, music in particular, pop music, because it's a combination of music and lyrics, is particularly good at, sort of providing us with the means of, I guess, extracting that information and open to it. Anyway, that all said, I'm looking for lessons everywhere. So literally, as I'm playing this song, What Have You Done For Me Lately? And the girl that I love is, or not love, I didn't love her yet. The girl I was hot for or attracted to. I probably felt like it was love, actually, probably at my young age. The lyrics that I'm talking about here is, used to be a time when you pampered me. You used to brag about it all the time. Your friends seem to think you're so peachy keen, but my friends say neglect is on your mind. And again, this is, like John was saying about my tell her about it, it is something I specifically logged at that time to be mindful of. And the thing that I thought was, I didn't want to be the guy that this, Janet Jackson was singing about.
Oh,
gotcha.
You were the subject of the song, not the singer of the song.
Yes, because it's a woman singing about a man. And it's pretty tropey this is a trope, this idea.
Yeah.
Man's the bread earner, so he comes home, puts his feet on the couch. He expects the woman to cook dinner and clean the dishes, that sort of thing. I didn't want to be that trope. And part of that was the girl that I liked had friends and they were close. And I know they talked about things that boys weren't privy to. And I didn't want, like this line about my friends say neglect is on your mind. I didn't want to be in any of their mouths. Keep me out your mouths, because if I'm going to be talked about, or I'm talked about in a way that's, I wish my boyfriend were like that, or I wish, because he's so all these things. He still takes you out dancing. He still takes you out to dinner, whatever. So this song for me, again, like tell her about it earlier, planted a specific seed, became one of those tenets of what I hoped to, epitomize ultimately as I developed relationships.
That's awesome.
So if someone was going to talk about you, you wanted them saying, I wish he was my boyfriend, not what's wrong with your garbage boyfriend, right? You wanted them to be, if anything, envious.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And I'd be like, cat fight.
I could see that.
Yeah. And one of them would be like,
Oh, yes.
yeah, something like that. I don't know. That's a whole different scenario I'm imagining now.
That's the one we're going to get to hear
off air.
Off air, right?
I don't know.
Probably a different song too. Yeah.
That might have to be a cat-free episode. Cat. I don't know. That might even be.
I don't.
Oh no, you said.
I don't know. That might be testing it. That might be testing the limits.
We're trying. Okay. So I'm going to cheat. Okay. Not the way you expect me to, but
he's going to make up a song. It's a song that I wrote.
No,
I inspired myself.
Right. And the lyrics go, I'm on a podcast. No, it's not how it goes.
Timely.
So there are two songs that Kat would never recognize them as the same song, because you have to listen to all the lyrics to get to they're the same song.
Okay.
But I assert that they're the same song, and probably I learned and heard the same idea. And there's definitely there's a stream of consciousness amongst all the songs that I've selected and talked about here. But there are two songs. So the first one is from 1988. This was a number one on the Billboard Hot 100. Bon Jovi with I'll Be There For You.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So start thinking, what's the other song that's identical to this song?
I'm trying it. Yeah.
Right? Okay. But here's what's going on at I'll Be There For You. And again, I'm not going to read the lyrics to you, but Things aren't going great. And I think maybe we're going to break up. It's not going awesome. But listen, we talked about the persistence of love that goes beyond, the immediate relationship. But it's this thing that like, look, I know this is about to be over. I see that things aren't going great, but just so you know, like I'm here for the next thing that happens, or if you change your mind or whatever, there's this sense of I'm not going to be petty about it. And I still care about you no matter what has happened. Maybe it means we get back together. Maybe it doesn't, but I'll be there for you. Right. And I believe that mantra. I feel it comes into honesty. It comes into the kind of, the long lastingness of love that isn't that light switch. But the other one that also is the same song thematically for me. It's from 1982. This was number 2 in 1982 on the Billboard Hot 100 by Journey, Open Arms.
Oh, okay.
Same thing. Same thing is going on. Right? It's this olive branch. Look, I am who I am. I understand things aren't going great. If you come around and change, I'll be here. Right? I'll be here with open arms. And both of those, like somebody could say, oh, so you like those songs, John, because you like to be the doormat. I get it. Right? It's just like, oh, you walk all over me and I'll still be here kind of thing, which is kind of what you could read into those, which is, do whatever to me you want. I'm going to still stand by you kind of thing. But I just saw it as, again, it's the perseverance of emotion that goes beyond the finality of a relationship that we have a background. There's the Popeye-ness of it all. Like I am who I am. Right? He's just saying, look, I get it. I understand I'm not perfect, but I'll be here with open arms. Is kind of what he's saying throughout that thing. And so both of those from different angles are about it ain't going great, but even if it doesn't, I'll still be here. I'll be there for you with open arms. Yeah, put those songs together.
Yeah, and I'll keep on loving you too. I mean, it's all different sort of shades of this idea that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's similar. Definitely. There's definitely a theme. There's thematic elements running through probably all the songs that I chose.
Yep. Well, here is a segue which leads into it's. There's one other one I won't talk about right now.
Perfect.
Unless
perfect.
Are you done, John?
Yeah. Please do. Yeah.
Okay.
Always take the segue.
I especially like when you say segue before you do it.
And now, the segue.
That's like, well, here's the introduction of the show. Welcome back to 1980s Now. Welcome back, Kat.
John, that topic.
Don't just address it directly. I'm still here. See what you're doing. You're not keeping on loving me.
Good.
Whatever.
I'm listening, Kat. Will, what have you done for us lately?
What am I doing here?
It's so perfect. What have you
got open arms?
I just want you both to know I have podcast satisfaction. Okay. I just want to put that
All
out
right.
there.
I don't know what that is, but I'm glad you have it.
I'm playing off of what Will was talking about, like when you have satisfaction.
When everything.
The podcast satisfaction.
When you can understand the meaning for something and the justification behind it, that kind of satisfaction. Okay.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, right. You've derived meaning
general,
from your role on the show.
Gotcha.
Yes.
But in general,
Will would prefer if you start by, and now here's a reference to something you said, Will. He would like you to introduce it. So.
John.
Yes.
Yeah, see, I'm back on because that was a shitty thing to say, John. It's awful.
No.
My most important song.
Okay.
My shining star of songs that I learned a lesson from or used.
Okay.
Anyway, used for a lesson is If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free.
Ooh.
By Sting.
Yep.
Ooh. It's the reason why I'm married today to who I am.
Because he came back?
Without...
Are you going to explain?
Without going into too much... Yeah, I'm going to explain. Yeah, without going into too much detail. But we... my current husband and I, we got together.
Wait, which of your current husbands, Kat? I have to be clear.
My first husband and I.
We got together in our senior year of college. And then when graduation came in his mind, he's like, all right, I have other things going on. There was someone else maybe in the wings. And I was like, like I really, didn't want things to end. And, but he wanted to be able to
sow his oats.
Sort of, move on with things.
Sow his oats.
Yeah, sow his oats.
As they say.
As it were. And he had someone else that it was on and off. And, and it was super hard for me at first. But then I realized, and this song gave it to me, gave me the ability to be like, you know what? I can't hang on to this. I can't cling. It's just not healthy.
Right.
And so it was like a mantra for me. And I told him that too. I let him know. I said, all right, go figure it out. And whatever. So playing upon what you were saying, John, go figure it out. And I am here.
Open arms. I'll be there for you. Yeah. See, it was a perfect segue. See? Perfect.
Yeah. And that was the magic, though. I mean, it was healthy for me to be able to do that and work through that. Hey, I might not stay with this person that I chose. I chose him. And then he chose me because of this, because I told him this, because I was not clinging to him, and he put thought in, into other things as well. And it was the letting him go that made him come back. So,
right.
Yeah, super.
So it's like
super duper
if you had
important.
tried to hold on, it likely would have driven him farther away.
Absolutely. It was, what's the quote that Princess, Leia says, the tighter you grip, the more,
slip through your fingers. Yeah.
And I learned that about him too, that would not have worked for him. That was definitely not,
and as the lyrics suggest, if you love somebody, so in the very least, the act is a selfless act that you're saying it's a heartache, but
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I will endure this so as to not project guilt upon you.
Yeah. So you can do it.
Someone's got to feel the pain. I will accept it rather than you feeling bad about me. Yeah. It is selfless. It is. Yeah. There's some self-sacrifice there without a doubt.
And also it released me too. It
did it?
Right. Yeah.
It was, well, I have to, if I cling to him, I'm going to be in misery. I just need to.
So do you think you consciously made a decision to put it behind you? Do you remember, was it like
I did.
Did you?
Yep.
Wow. That's strong.
Yep. Yeah. There was a period of a couple of weeks where we weren't together. It wasn't that long. It was only a couple of weeks, but I of course I was sort of hoping, but I had decided, all right, this might not happen.
I'm going to stop counting on it. If it does, great. If it doesn't, I'm okay. That's healthy.
Thanks, guys, for sharing these insights into the lessons that you learned from love songs.
Blah, blah, blah,
of the
love,
1980s.
blah, blah,
There you
blah.
go.
There
We've
you
been
go.
waiting for it all. Now we're going to share. We asked folks on social media to share what the lessons they learned. I'm going to give those to you in just a moment, but I wanted to close out my wonky thoughts by this other thing that I learned, which was interesting, because this comes down to what we got out of lyrics. But what's curious is that over time, lyrics for hit songs have become increasingly simpler. And there was this paper that I'll link in the show notes that graphs, he calls it the compressibility, which he means simplicity of song lyrics over time. And I think it doesn't go back much further than the 1970s, if at all, the chart, and then it goes through today. But it's a slow sort of changing of songs grow more simple over the decades. Obviously, they're more simple now. They're the most simple they've ever been now than they've been in the tracking of this data.
Now, by simple, do you mean, I'll read the article, but just curious, do you mean in vocabulary or in like subtext and depth, which I'm assuming is what you mean, or both?
Yeah, look, I describe this as wonky. This paper is a serious, like, scientific journal entry. It is hard to understand.
Wow.
Okay.
But he does have their methods, and he does have the methodology and all that in there. I'll be honest with you, I kind of skimmed that part because it was like kind of.
Oh, sure.
But it seems to me, at least in part, I can say it's one of those things that you talked about, as far as it's the vocabulary. What I believe is, and maybe I'm just either I'm making this up because I did this myself, and I'll tell you about this in just a second here, or it's one of the things out of the paper was, we have these AIs we can run things through now. They'll tell you the reading level of a particular thing.
Yep.
So that was definitely part of it. I think it was more than that. And I'll tell you why I think that, because this paper offered a few explanations as to why songs might be getting simpler as far as lyrics go. Again, they were more sophisticated in the 1980s. One thing is the psychological phenomena, which is apparently very widely known, pretty popular, is the exposure effect. The idea that the more you're exposed to something, provided it doesn't create a negative, it's not negative to you, the more you'll learn to prefer it. So it doesn't have to be positive.
Okay.
It just can't be negative.
Yeah.
Just familiar. All right. Familiar and not negative.
Anyway, so and another thing is that more repetitive lyrics are easier to remember. And this is what makes me think vocabulary, John. So the fact that songs are just simple in the sense that they're repetitive, it may be as I'm using the word simple a different way. It may be as simple as that. And then finally, that humans, as they say in this paper, are cognitive misers. The idea being that we're very efficient. And so what we do is, without realizing it is, if given a choice between two things, and maybe you have done this more, overtly, is that the idea? Or consciously. You probably could think of an example where you did. If you're presented with two things, one of them is really complicated. Shit, I got to get involved in this. Or I could do this other thing that's really simple. Your brain quickly analyzes the resources necessary and picks the simpler one. I liken it to if you've got a list of errands you need to run, and the one that requires me, the one I could do from the couch, I'll pick that one over the other one. That's the kind of idea, right?
Can I do it lying down with the remote next to me?
Are you reprogramming the remote again? You got to stay on top of it. So the idea applied to music is that if you have a whole catalog of songs, because the other theory is, I guess the final theory is that there's so many songs now compared to yesteryear in the 1980s. And when you combine it with what the last point that I made and this gentleman makes is that the more songs you have to choose from, your brain's going to pick the simpler ones to dwell on.
So subconsciously as well as what we do, which is being lazy.
Yeah. But this leaves me thinking,
I don't like everything the way it is now compared to the way it used to be.
like, what happens to future generations as far as deriving meaning from their lyrics, If the songs are getting simpler and just more repetitive.
Yeah, where's the subtlety? Shape of You. I'm looking right at you.
Yeah, there you go. Now, I did for fun run Miley Cyrus song. I said to the computer, what's the one of the popular love songs these days? And one of them was Miley Cyrus's Flowers. So I ran that one and Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart through one of these AI reading level generators.
Can't wait.
And Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart, has a 4th grade reading level, which is not too terrible, actually, because I think a lot of the times articles and papers are like 3rd grade, 4th grade, like that kind of thing. Miley Cyrus's Flowers got a 1st grade reading level.
Aww.
Okay, yes.
Isn't she sweet?
All right, shit. We've been talking for like 3 hours, but I wanted to share some of the things that folks said on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter about their love lessons. And I can't share them all, Kat. I'm sorry. They're just not possible.
I know. There's so many responses. Yeah, I loved it.
Talk about engagement. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stacy says, owner of a lonely heart is much better than the owner of a broken heart.
That was a good lesson.
I agree there. Keith writes, love stinks. That was a popular refrain that we got from
A couple people
some other
said
folks.
that one. Yeah.
Sky McDonald, we've been talking about her book in our interview with her last week. She wrote to us on Twitter saying, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Got to set them boundaries, yo.
Yo.
And then added, seriously, I could go on and on here. Awesome topic.
Yeah.
Suzanne writes, my husband votes for Come Dancing for its lessons about the fleeting nature of young love and, well, everything.
Yeah.
Oh, Megan says that love will tear us apart. And apparently I give it a bad name. Oh, yeah, because she does. You do.
Bad name.
You give it, Megan. That's true. We had a few folks, including Rebecca, say that love is a battlefield.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, see, Amy also said you give love a bad name. Francisco says, don't stop believing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mark Beer says, get armored up. It's supposed to be a battlefield.
Yes.
There you go. And Mark James on Twitter writes, never trust a woman who wears her pants too tight. A Grateful Dead reference.
That's profiling.
All right. Hey, that was the show.
And our show is brought to you every week, thanks in part to our early adopters. I got to say, I can't say adopters now without thinking of the Cabbage Patch. It's like we were adopted. We were homely. We needed somebody to
Ugly
adopt
ass
us.
dogs.
Our early adopters like Karen Flieger, Kathy Burke, and Rick Parker.
Thank you.
Yay.
Awesome.
No, no
Next.
Flurry.
It's coming.
And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success level Patreon supporters like Nick Guillory,
Go, Nick.
who prompted
That's
this
right.
very
Thank you,
long
Nick.
Nick, yeah.
recording.
Seek help.
And also, maybe we helped him. Maybe. And
We love Nick.
John Henderson.
Go, John.
We do. Craig Coletta.
Yep.
Brad Bowman.
Go, Brad.
Marcus Taylor. And Tony Grace.
Great.
And I have a special announcement here.
Oh?
I am pleased to announce we have
Let's
a
hear it.
new patron joining us. Please
Da,
welcome to the
da.
show, Brandon Greer.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you,
Welcome to the party.
Brandon.
Brandon has become one of our Secret of Our Success level Patreon
Yay.
supporters. He writes to us, I just wanted to drop in and thank the three of you for such outstanding content. After several months of binge listening to the podcast, I just signed up to be a Patreon member and can't wait to dive into the bonus content. You're in for a real treat this week, Brandon. A great conversation with Kat.
There's plenty. We recorded for 7 hours. There's so much extra stuff.
This show is probably 45 minutes, and this is all bonus content.
He's going to cut out everything I said and put it in.
Brandon continues, I really do enjoy the John and Kat show.
Me too, Brandon.
And it's pretty cool when Will gets a word in edgewise as well. Dude, this is my favorite guy already. Then he writes, I kid. But seriously, the three of you make a great team, great chemistry, and it's obviously the three of you enjoy what you're doing. As a child of the 80s, I'm happy to come across this podcast months ago, and I'm excited for every new episode to come. Please keep up the amazing work, and best wishes for each of you. Thank you,
Oh
Brandon.
my gosh.
I got to tell you,
Wow.
this is
Thank
true
you, Brandon.
because every time I think of quitting this thing, like, why are we doing this to shut it down? We get a message from someone like Brandon, or we get another supporter, and I think, all right, we'll do it another week.
One more.
Well, I got to put Brandon in the rotation
That's
here.
right, you do.
That's right.
I got to add him
I'll
in.
get you that
to
info.
my-
And you know, and hey, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we just closed out our 4th anniversary of podcasting here, beginning our 5th year. So I wanted to also thank the other folks who have, thank everybody that's listened to the show, and certainly anybody that supported us in any small way over the years. But I wanted to also remind folks, we have some other patrons as well who I want to thank that you don't hear their names every week, but they are continue to support the show, including Craig Anderson, Craig Rustin, Jillian Perry, Nate Wallace, Keith Sheehan, and one anonymous donor who refuses to let us know. I'm going to say it.
Who is it? Now I need to know.
Barack Obama. Who could be?
I don't believe it.
Can I say someone less controversial than Barack Obama? Who else could it be?
I want to see the birth certificate.
That balanced it out, John. That balanced it out.
Thank you.
And they're
I
back.
tried.
They're back. Resubscribe. All right. Hey, that was plenty of show for 1 week and probably 2 or 3. Check out our bonus episode last week with Scott McDonald because there was a lot of references and callbacks.
There are. Yeah.
Apparently. All right. Hey,
get
we
it.
will talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
I'll be there for you.
This podcast is part of the 80s Ruled Network. Visit the 80s Ruled on Facebook for more 1980s awesomeness.